Hello and a very warm welcome, viewers. You're watching Reset India with your host, Kriti Mishra. Our show focuses on all the key areas where resetting, revamping or restructuring is required to boosting India's economic growth prospects. The Indian economy may revive and retake its place as the fastest growing one in 2021, says the forecast released by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. The report projected that the Indian economy will bounce back to grow at 12.6% in financial year 2022, the highest among G20 countries, aided by additional fiscal support. The recovery in India continued in the fourth quarter of 2020, despite new virus outbreaks in many economies and tighter containment measures. Global output remained around 1% lower than prior to the pandemic, with marked variation in the pace of recovery across economies. And for deeper insights, I'm joined by Mr. Dilip Chinoy, Secretary General, FICCI, and Mr. Yadavendra Mathur, former Special Secretary, Niti Aayog. Welcome to Sabha Television, both of you. And before we commence our discussion, let's take a look at a few important figures. So the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, in its report, Strengthening the Recovery, the need for speed, has raised the projection for India's economic growth rate by 4.7 percentage points at 12.6% for 2021-2022. The International Monetary Fund, or IMF, projected an impressive 11.5% growth rate for India in 2021. This makes India the only major economy of the world to register a double-digit growth in 2021-2022. After two consecutive quarters of contraction, India's gross domestic product for the October-December quarter, which is also Q3, grew by 0.4%. All right, let's go back to our guest now. Mr. Chinoy, coming to you first. OECD says that India is set to regain its earlier tag of fastest growing economy of the world. Your opening comments, sir.
Well, the OECD really forecast is a very welcome analysis here. They have actually based their fundamental growth projections on three pillars, which is vaccinate fast, invest fast, and support people. I think India is doing all the three there. And our belief, and FICCI just did a business confidence survey, which has shown that business confidence is approximately the highest in over a decade. And I believe that the OECD survey reflects that and reflects the whole return to fast economic activity across various sectors. And as the vaccination process speeds up, even the services sectors such as airlines, rail transport, hotels, leisure, etc., will also bounce back. And perhaps maybe later in this quarter or later, early in the next quarter, you might even see a further enhancement of these growth rates going forward.
All right, since you're talking about your report, let me take that to Mr. Mathur. Mr. Mathur, business confidence highest over the last decade. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. The period of gloom is kind of over. I think the very deft and swift actions that we are taking, particularly now in the vaccination phase, and the way the vaccination rollout has boosted confidence, not only in the industry, but in the common man. I think that Atmanirbhar Bharat is really to be seen. And what OECD's report, the interim report, has mentioned, and like you were telling your viewers, is only adding to the IMF forecast for 2021, which had also predicted Indian economy to grow at 11.5%. And like my friend Mr. Chinoy rightly commented, business confidence is at an all-time high. And I think the budget has, really lifted the, the perception of what the government would do to, something that is amazing. And the structural, deep-rooted reform that was signaled is something that has been reflected in the stock markets. It is reflected in FDI, and the capacities are being used again. So I see no reason why OECD's report would have ignored these things. In fact, like Mr. Chinoy said, going forward, I can see the growth rate even lifting more than the 12.6% projected. Though the caveat is it is on a low base rate, but even in real terms, the contraction of the economy is not what was projected.
Well, absolutely. But talking about the report and one of the cautions that it points out, Mr. Chenoy, it says that rising commodity prices will lead to higher inflation. How do we address this challenge?
You see, Kriti, about the commodity prices, it's a cycle. We actually benefited during the crisis period by low commodity prices, by low oil prices, and even prior to the pandemic, the commodity prices were low. The rising commodity prices, actually, if you look at the budget, this budget, from the steel sector, for example, this budget has tried to address some of the rise in prices by actually adjusting the customs duty going forward. Yes, commodity prices are a challenge. Rising petroleum prices are a challenge. But I think you will see that both the economy and industry will find a way to overcome this challenge and continue growth. I mean, another aspect of the FICCI Conference survey is that a large percentage of people, 31% of the people actually said they're going to plan to invest higher in this year than they've done in the last few months. And also, like Mr. Mathur said, that in the budget and in the PLI, production linked incentive scheme, we're going to see a lot of investment coming in here, which is going to fuel growth. There is a challenge of high commodity prices and inflation, but I believe that the Monetary Policy Committee and the RBI will take adequate measures to address those issues.
Mr. Mathur, inflationary concerns and the way ahead.
Yeah. I couldn't get the question, please.
Sir, I said inflationary concerns and the way ahead. That remains one of the biggest concerns for India's economic growth.
I would not agree with that perspective. See, some mild inflation is growth enhancing. And what is important is, where is that inflation coming from? Is it core inflation or is it impacting the common person? And other products, we are very aware, is because of the fiscal space being compressed. But going forward, I do feel that the monetary policy and the fiscal policy, they're very much in sync and totally in alignment with the need for growth. And I think the slew of measures to see that the disadvantaged, the bottom of the pyramid, the poor, marginalized, they are getting cared for. And though the MSME sector, which has seen jobs being laid off, that needs to very quickly bounce back. And I do see this turning. So my sense is, going forward, the inflationary pressures would be completely addressed with more capacity coming in and the exports also picking up. So I would not be too worried with some mild dose of inflation.
Mr. Chenoy, the report also talks about the potential risks of new mutations of the virus and also reimposition of the containment measures. That certainly rings a bell.
So I think, one of the great lessons of the learning of the lockdown and unlock procedure is now the containment zones are getting smaller and narrower. And we are finding a way of how to keep businesses going forward. And therefore, even if I think the India and the Prime Minister and everybody is saying, okay, you're doing the vaccination, we're doing that, but it's still important to maintain the 3 SMS, the sanitization, the social distancing, and mask. So, I mean, new mutants and new viruses, if we maintain these precautions, we will still be able to contain the spread going on there. And also, what is interesting is some of the vaccines, right, are also, produce antibodies, or the new mutants are also being contained by the new, those existing vaccines. Yes, it is a challenge. We should not let our guard down. We should continue to vaccinate fast. We should continue to isolate new strains of virus, prevent the spread. Yes, the challenge would be, since they are coming in from overseas, right? We'll have to be, international travel will actually be impacted for a bit longer. But I think in terms of growth, again, as Mr. Mathur said, and as I feel, even with those constraints, we are likely to go ahead of 12.6 next year. We have to be cautious. We have to not let the guard down going forward.
Of course, there shouldn't be any fatigue as far as the COVID precautionary measures are concerned. But Mr. Mathur, India has turned out to be the pharmacy of the world, shipping COVID-19 vaccines to different parts of the world. The impact of COVID vaccine rollout program on India's economic recovery, according to you?
Oh, that's amazing. I think we have shown the world, and we should be justifiably proud of the tenacity and the commitment of the scientists, the entire health fraternity, the pharma industry. I think it was amazing to see the way everything rallied around. And I think geopolitically, India has very rightly taken care of the needs of our neighbors, our friendly countries, and supplied vaccines. I think it's an amazing story of how together we can take charge of our destinies. It is in leadership and good governance. And I think those ingredients are well in place. The vaccine rollout, even the state governments need to be complemented. They have got organized very well. You can see, above 60 vaccination is really picked up. And I do not see the challenge coming from the mutants. They have always been there. Whenever a virus is there, there have been mutants. But I think the scientific community is really on top of the situation. The time of gloom and doom is over. We need to jointly follow instructions, not let our guard loose. And we have to fight. This is a time for humanity to fight collectively for a greater and a brighter future. And I think that's what that Atmanirbhar Bharat is resonating with a common man. They know that there will be a better future. Even working from home, the kind of atmosphere that has got created. I know there are hardships with people, some losing jobs. So they need to quickly get reskilled. And I think that's where we need to reach out in our communities, get people to get quickly reskilled. There are jobs, but we need to get reskilled. And I think that that engine of change is happening, and a transformed India is definitely going to be a far happier.
So how do we ensure that our working force, sir, can you hear me? How do we ensure that our workforce is reskilled very quickly? How do we ensure that?
Yeah, so industry is partnering with academia. So you can see that even with technology now appearing to be disruptive, actually the digital divide has to be reached, has to be bridged, so that the disadvantaged are not digitally excluded. Once they get connected digitally, I think to reskill them, upskill them is deliverable. And that's what is the promise for the new jobs to come. The industry 4.0, the production linked incentive scheme will create jobs, and we will be a highly efficient, productive economy in the next decade, without any doubt.
All right, sir, you mentioned two very important points about Atmanirbhar Bharat and the PLI scheme. Mr. Chinoy, coming to you. Atmanirbhar Bharat and, of course, the PLI scheme for several sectors, including IT hardware, telecom, pharmaceuticals. What are the tangible effects that you see on the ground, and how will it transform India as a manufacturing hub of the world?
Today, if you look at the 14 sectors for which the PLI scheme have been announced, in the mobile phones, you've already seen that implemented. So if you see from a net importer of mobile phones, we have actually become an exporter of mobile phones. And as the PLI scheme, goes forward and the phased manufacturing program also kicks in, we will also be, being able to reduce the import of components in that space. If you look at the pharmaceutical things and look at the 33 companies who have been shortlisted in the pharmaceutical sector, they're going to invest significant amounts and actually going to reduce our dependence on two aspects, whether the active pharmaceutical ingredients or the key starting materials for the key critical drugs and medicines in India, which is going to create additional employment, additional investment, and generate additional economic activity. And sector by sector, every kind of sector is actually looking at it. And just earlier this month, the Prime Minister held a full, inaugurated the consultation on the PLI scheme, looking at the solar cells, the auto components, looking at technical textiles, IT hardware. So all of these will actually lead to two things: in some cases, new greenfield investments from overseas investors, like you saw in the mobile electronics space, even contract manufacturers setting up new manufacturing here. You will see existing Indian companies, setting up investment, and like you're seeing in certain specialty steels and others, there's a possibility of joint ventures coming in. In investment, if you look at the 1,95,000 crores that has been actually allocated to this sector, and that is about 5% of the total production. So there's going to be, you can easily add 2 zeros to that, and that's really the total production that will come out over the 5-year period. And it is, billions of dollars can come in investment and in production going forward, and also create jobs in India. But more importantly, it will, lead to an Atmanirbhar Bharat, to use the Atmanirbhar phrase that Prime Minister and everybody is using. It also will reduce our dependence on external supply chains, so that if a pandemic were to reoccur at some future point of time, we will not face the kind of economic shocks that we actually felt in January and February of last year, even before the pandemic actually struck in India because of supply chain disruptions. So it will lead to greater investment, greater employment, greater economic output going forward.
But Mr. Chinoy, government has said that it is not its business to be in the business. It has ensured ease of doing business in the country for the private players. Now, do you think that the private investment will also pick pace?
Is that for Mr. Mathur or for me?
Yes, Mr. Chinoy. This is an industry perspective that I'd like to elicit.
Yeah, okay. So I think on ease of doing business, what you heard in the budget speech of the Honorable Finance Minister was a commitment to actually further reduce compliances. Very recently, the Secretary DPIIT and the Honorable Minister of Commerce and Industry also took out specific, saying that over 6,000 odd regulations would be actually addressed going forward. And the ease of doing business, many states now are actually following the center in furthering the ease of doing business. States are also appointing a single nodal officer to work with a particular company that is being invested in India and is looking at investing in India or investing in their state. In the virtual world, states are having more interactions with their counterparts overseas. And like I said, even in the FICCI business confidence survey, 31% of the respondents said that they're going to invest more than the past. And, some of the PLI schemes are not included here. So private sector will continue to invest here. You will see some of the disinvestment steps that have been taken by the government. You will see both Indian and foreign firms come in. The increase of FDI in defense and in insurance will see further activity there. I think all this will actually leads us to the confidence that we're going to have significant high double-digit growth next year.
You made a very important point about states there. And Mr. Mathur, coming to you. As he said, states have to continue with the reform process. There has to be a consistency of policy. How will the center ensure a cohesive and a coordinated approach?
Yeah, that's important to flag. And I think the Finance Commission, 15 Finance Commission, has very rightly signaled the reform agendas that the states will need to really adopt. And that is really on areas where the states have a great role to play. I will mention agriculture.
Yes.
I will mention, forestry, fisheries. These sectors are where the state governments are, in a way, looking at creating well-paying jobs. So it's agriculture, for one, needs better paying jobs. It's a viable sector. It is just that the number of people engaged in agriculture is far more than are really needed.
Yes.
So what the states have to really get together is to look at where productivity in their states is high. It could be in the mining sector, it could be in fisheries, it could be towards a more maritime-oriented economic growth. The coastal states in India are very excited about opening up the fisheries sector, deep sea fishing. These are new economic areas that the state governments have for the first time realized that they can do a lot and attract investments in their states.
Yes.
Export-oriented zones, textile parks, some 7-8 large mega textile parks are coming. The dedicated freight corridors, the whole the cost of logistic is bound to come down from the high 13-15%, is going to really come down to 7-8%. And what the state governments can also do is to do something about the pricing of electricity.
Right.
And be a little more courageous and bring down electricity rates for, let us say, textiles and other sectors which are going to create jobs and give more productivity gains to the nation. So I think the states are seized of the opportunities. They are being rightly encouraged by the cooperative fiscal federalism that we're talking about. And the GST reforms are actually helping many states collect resources far in excess of what they could collect earlier. You take the case of even tolls through the digital FASTag way. Toll revenue is so encouraging and is going to boost economic infrastructure creation in a big way that will really open up underdeveloped areas to faster logistics. So I think the state governments will be now able to carry forward far more dynamically. Some states have really moved fast, some are lagging behind. And I really hope that over the next 24 months, the state governments will really carry the torch of development and industry-led growth.
And of course, the center has been promoting competition among states with several indices. But before we end this conversation, closing comments from both my guests. Mr. Chenoy, Indian economy in the post-pandemic era and role of India.
I think if I look at your reset, revive, and revamp, right? I think it's reinvigorated growth and reimagined growth going forward. Many new sectors of the economy will emerge. There will be a lot of investment in India going forward. The states will play a greater role. Many of the PLI schemes are looking at industrial clusters in the states and have offered special incentives for the states, provided they take the reform measures that Mr. Mathur had talked about. So I think it's a new, confident, resurgent India in 2021-22.
Resurgent India in 2021-22. Mr. Mathur, your comments.
Absolutely. I can only ditto what Mr. Chenoy rightly mentioned. Government is only a facilitator. The ball is now in the court of industry and the SME sector. I think the role of the SME sector cannot be ignored while we are talking about big investments. We need to create well-paying jobs. I think we're at an inflection point, and I really hope that the so-called India and the so-called Bharat, they really merge. And we are able to create the ecosystem. The new labor laws are giving that space. I hope it is used wisely by industry to really look at the welfare of their employees, and this is the time when gains on the stock exchange, gains in wealth of high net worth individuals should all translate into better paying jobs of people who depend on them. I think that is the vision I have of the future.
Absolutely, sir. And of course, India is all set to regain its title of fastest growing economy in the world. And as Mr. Chenoy said, with resetting, revamping, restructuring, and reinvigorating. On that note, thank you so much for joining us. So that's all we have for you in this edition of Reset India. Thanks for watching and stay tuned to Rajya Sabha TV.